Good morning. In this week's parasha of Mikeitz, we have a couple of meetings between Yosef and the brothers, and although it starts on quite a difficult, unpleasant note, when the brothers eventually come back with Binyamin, he greets them with a cheerful countenance and things start off very nicely. He asks them how their father is doing, and they get together and he invites them for a meal, and he sees Binyamin and he's extremely emotionally moved by this. He has them sit down before him and he arranges them in age order. And then the Torah tells us in a Perek Mem Gimel Pasuk Lamed Daled, chapter 43, verse 34, Vayisa masot me'et panav aleihem, and he gives them portions. So he gives them, each of them a portion as a catered lunch. V'terev masot Binyamin mimas et kulam, and chamesh yadot, and he increased the portion of Binyamin 5 times the size of any of their portion. V'yishtu v'yishgaru imo, and they drank and they became inebriated with him. Now this is quite interesting. The Torah doesn't shy away from telling us, because you have this meeting with the great head of Egypt, the scary viceroy who holds your fate in his hands. The first thing that you got to do is retain your dignity and your decorum. You don't just get drunk and lose all sense of dignity and how you're supposed to behave. I mean, you'd be invited to lunch at the Queen. You would watch how much you have to have. So why is it that they're getting drunk? So the Sforno says a very straightforward, interesting explanation. He says they were from the country. They were not used to such strong wine. They sat down and they go, "Why? They all thought this was like wine from home." So they drank it like the grape juice that they had at home, but this is real wine. And so unintentionally they all ended up getting drunk. The problem with that is that it doesn't come up again at all in the text. Doesn't seem to be relevant further in terms of the development of what happens. And so why would the Torah mention it? Just to tell us that they weren't used to drinking strong wine. It seems strange the Torah would want to go out of its way to mention that. Rashi quotes the Gemara in Shabbat, which says that in fact not only did the brothers become inebriated, but Yosef also. Because it says v'yishkaru imo, they became drunk with him. Not just they became drunk, they became drunk with him. They both became drunk, which would challenge the Sforno's answer if we would accept that, because why on earth would Yosef get drunk? He was certainly used to the strength of his own wine. So the answer that the Gemara in Shabbat says is that from the day that they had sold him, neither the brothers nor Yosef had drunk any wine until this day. So the Torah is telling you they drank and got drunk, that they drank for the first time in years, for the first time in over 20 years. Now why would that be? Why would this be that firstly that they didn't drink until now, and secondly, why is it that they do drink now? So the first question is easily answered. They were in mourning. The brothers were in mourning, either from what they'd done that they regretted it in some way, or as an understanding of the seriousness of their actions, even if they felt they were justified. Or it could even be in commiseration with their father Yaakov, who certainly was in mourning. However, you have Yosef, who is essentially mourning for his own situation. Yosef, who is in exile. Yosef, who has been in such difficult circumstances, so many spiritual trials, is refraining from wine because he was in personal mourning. However, now they are all drinking. So, why are the brothers drinking? Why is Yosef drinking? So the Maharal of Prague, the Gur Aryeh, says that we have a principle. Nichnas yayin yotzei sod. When the wine comes in, the secrets go out. If you understand what I'm saying, you don't keep a tight lid on confidential information when you've had a couple drinks over your limit. So the principle is when somebody drinks, then they spill their secrets. In fact, the Maharal points out that the gematria, the numerical value of yayin, wine, which is 70, yud and yud 10 each, that's 20, and then nun is 50, and sod is Samach, which is 60, Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4. So they both are 70. So he says there's this connection between wine and secrets. In fact, the Maharal goes one step further to say because wine is secreted away in and secreted from the grape. It's hidden within the grape. And in fact, for it to become alcoholic is another invisible process of fermentation. So that's their connection between wine and secrets. Well, we know it applies to all alcohol, but it seems wine especially. And the Maharal says that the brothers saw Yosef putting all this wine out on the table in front of them. So they said to themselves, listen, if we drink now, so on the one hand, we shouldn't drink because we're still in mourning. But on the other hand, this is probably a test. This viceroy guy is a little bit tricky. He keeps seeming to throw curveballs at us. And probably he's putting down the wine specifically in order to extract our secrets, specifically in order to test us, to see if we have something to hide. And so, according to the Maharal, they drank the wine in order to show him we have nothing to hide, we're prepared to drink and get drunk and basically admit to you whatever you want. We're not holding back. So as a sign of their trust. Why Yosef would drink? So the simple meaning would be because he was no longer in mourning. Because he was now being reunited with his brothers. He's now met Benjamin, who he hadn't, none of the brothers has he seen, but Benjamin he was close to. He sees that, he's starting to see that there is teshuvah on the part of the brothers, although it hasn't yet been complete. And he is engineering a reconciliation, so why does he need to mourn anymore? But Rabbi Moshe Feinstein gives a very interesting take on another explanation of why the brothers themselves no longer mourn, why they drink, is he says, but the brothers, they did not yet know that it was Yosef. How could they drink? What is different from the past, from the day that they sold him for those entire 20 years that they hadn't drunk? Perhaps, since they saw that Hashem already had compassion upon them, because they had found favor in the eyes of the ruler of Egypt, and they have been assisted from the fear that they felt when they thought he was going to imprison them all for being slaves, and they have already seen help coming from Hashem. Therefore, they can now hope that Hashem will fulfill all of the prayers and all of the brachot of their father Yaakov. Perhaps they will even find their brother Yosef. And therefore, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says we can learn from this, that you must thank Hashem even for the beginning of salvation. In other words, the time had not yet come where everything had come through. But you know what they saw? They saw a glimmer of hope. When a glimmer of hope appears in a dark time, you have no way of knowing, as the saying goes, whether it is the light at the end of the tunnel or whether it is an oncoming train. All you can see is a glimmer. And the question is, do you wait until it is revealed to be salvation, until you discover that it's a great light, until you are able to truly celebrate? Or do you begin celebrating even now, confident that when goodness happens to us, it is part of Hashem's way of dealing kindness with us? And that second approach is what the brothers did, and it's an amazing approach. And the idea is, the truth is, it got worse before it got better. Benjamin actually was then accused of being a thief, and they once again thought that they would all be slaves. But they were actually right now. Even though, looking at it, you could have said their celebration was premature, because certainly the fat lady had not yet sung. But this was indeed the beginning of their salvation. This was indeed the journey towards redemption. And I think another example when I saw that is the state that we have in our own beloved Medinat Yisrael in Israel. The fact that you have Reshit Tzmichad Kulatenu, the dawning of our redemption. Now, whether this is the full redemption, what kind of trials we must yet go through until we have the complete redemption, we don't know. But what we see from the brothers is we celebrate the beginning of the redemption. We celebrate the happiness and the blessing of Hashem that we experience right now. And so when things are tough and they get better, don't cast it to the side. Don't say you're going to wait. celebrate now, see the hand of Hashem in your life in every good thing. Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach.